First, it sounds impossible. A plane flying through the sky suddenly loses one of its wings, and somehow it still manages to land. Not crash, not fall from the sky, but land. How can that even happen? Most people would assume that once a wing is gone, it's all over, that there's no way a plane can keep flying. But in rare cases, a handful of planes have done the unthinkable. In this video, we're going to look at the stories of those planes. We'll talk about what happened, how they stayed in the air, and why they didn't crash. You'll see how design, pilot skill, and sometimes just plain luck made the impossible possible. Basics of flight. Let's start with the basics. For a plane to fly, it needs something called lift. Lift is what keeps a plane in the sky. It's the force that pushes the plane up while gravity is trying to pull it down. Lift comes from the wings. As the plane moves forward, air flows over and under the wings. The top of the wing is curved and the bottom is flat. Because of that shape, the air moves faster over the top and slower underneath. That difference in speed creates a pressure difference. The lower pressure on top and higher pressure below pushes the wing upward. That's lift. Both wings work together to keep the plane steady. If one wing creates less lift than the other, the plane will tilt or roll. If one wing is completely missing, the plane becomes unstable right away. It can start spinning or diving, and the pilot may lose control fast. This is why most people, especially those who aren't pilots, think a plane without a wing has no chance. And in most cases, they're right. Wings aren't just important, they're essential. Without them, lift is gone. Without lift, the plane can't stay up. So normally, if a plane loses one wing, it should spin out of control and crash. It should fall straight down or break apart in mid-air. That's why stories about planes flying or even landing without a wing sound fake. They go against what we've been taught. But here's the twist. In a few rare cases, something unexpected happened. The pilots didn't give up. They didn't just sit there and wait for the crash. Instead, they fought for control. And surprisingly, the plane responded. Even without a wing, it still had some lift left, just enough. In some cases, the plane's body, its shape, and other surfaces made up for the missing wing.
The engines helped too, especially if there were two of them. By using different levels of power on each side, the pilot could steer and keep the plane level. The pilot also had to be extremely skilled. Even the smallest input, turning slightly, pushing, or pulling the stick, could throw the plane out of control. They had to use every bit of training, every bit of instinct, to fly something that shouldn't be flying. And sometimes, it worked. Some planes didn't crash. They made it home, or at least made it back to the ground in one piece. Not all of them landed perfectly. Some skidded off runways, landed too fast, or had parts falling off. But the pilots walked away, and the plane didn't break apart in the sky. That's the real shock. These weren't computer simulations or made-up stories. They were real planes, real pilots, real emergencies. So while most of the time losing a wing ends badly, there are exceptions. And those exceptions tell us a lot about how planes work, how pilots think, and how much can be done with almost nothing left. Let's start with the most famous story, the Su-25 that lost a wing. In 2014, a Ukrainian Su-25 jet was flying near the war zone in eastern Ukraine. The pilot was flying a mission when his jet was hit by a missile. The explosion ripped off most of the right wing. That should have been the end. But somehow, the plane didn't go down. The pilot stayed calm. He noticed that while the controls were hard to manage, the plane was still reacting. He used the rudder and the engine thrust to steer the jet. The Su-25 is a rugged jet. It was built to survive damage. It has twin engines, one on each side of the body. That helped the pilot control the plane by using different amounts of thrust on each engine. After flying about 50 kilometers with almost no right wing, the pilot brought the jet back to base and landed. Not smoothly, not gently, but he landed. He got out alive. This wasn't just skill. It was also the design of the Su-25. Its strong frame and balanced engines helped keep it steady. But that's just one case. The Israeli F-15 with one wing. Now here's the most famous example of all. In 1983, an Israeli Air Force F-15 Eagle was flying in a training exercise.
The pilot, Zivi Nadivi, was in a mock dogfight with another fighter jet. Suddenly, there was a collision. Zivi's jet slammed into an A-4 Skyhawk. The F-15 lost its entire right wing. Gone. Just like that. Zivy had no idea how bad the damage was. He only knew that his plane was shaking, but still flying. The F-15 was going fast, more than 250 miles per hour. At that speed, the body of the plane and the big engines underneath were still making some lift. The F-15 is a big jet, and it has twin engines that produce a lot of thrust. It also has a wide body and strong control surfaces. Zivy and his navigator decided to try to land. The plane came in fast, much faster than normal. They touched down, used the tailhook, and somehow stopped the jet on the runway. When they got out and looked back, they were shocked. The entire right wing was missing. No one had ever seen anything like it. That F-15 was later repaired and put back into service, and Zivy Nadivi became a legend. Why some planes can fly without a wing? You're probably asking, how is that even possible? Here's the truth. Not every plane can do this. Most can't. Other known cases. Here are a few more incidents where planes lost a wing, or most of one, and still kept flying. 1. B-52 Stratofortress, 1964 crash test. In a test flight, a B-52 lost its vertical tail during turbulence. Not a wing, but still a key part of control. The pilot managed to keep the plane stable for a short time before landing it safely. 2. World War II P-38 Lightning. There are stories from World War II where pilots landed damaged planes with sections of wing missing. In one case, a P-38 pilot lost most of the left wingtip, but still landed the plane using careful controls. 3. F-16 mid-air collision, 1992. A U.S. F-16 collided with another plane during training. The F-16 lost part of a wing and its horizontal stabilizer. The pilot ejected, but the plane actually flew itself for a while before crashing. 4. RC and experimental planes. In test labs and with remote-controlled planes, there are many cases where a wing is torn off, but the plane keeps going, at least for a little while. These events help researchers learn more about control, balance, and flight mechanics when things go wrong. What modern engineers learn from these incidents? Aircraft designers study these cases to build better planes. They ask, how did the plane stay up? What kept it from flipping or spinning? What did the pilot do? What parts of the plane still worked? They study the wreckage. They look at the flight data. They talk to the crew. Every little piece of information gets recorded. And from that data, they build better planes. They design stronger parts. They add smarter systems. They give pilots better tools to handle trouble in the future. So even if the event was a fluke, even if it's something that may never happen again, it still helps. It still leads to safer planes, safer flights, and more trained pilots. That's why these rare stories matter. They're not just wild tales or freak accidents. They're lessons. They're reminders that even in the sky, even with something as extreme as losing a wing, it's not always game over. Not if the plane is tough, the pilot is sharp, and a little bit of luck is on their side. So even though these events are rare, they make a big impact on how we build and fly planes today. So now you know, there have been planes that landed without a wing. Not because it was easy, not because they were lucky, but because of brave pilots, smart design, and strong machines. Next time you see a fighter jet cutting through the sky, remember this. Some of them are strong enough to fly, even when half of them is gone. If you enjoyed this video, make sure to like and subscribe to see more videos like this.